Well, Chad, I'm pissed off. I fucking just did an intro for this goddamn movie night, and I accidentally realized that somewhere between like the first 10 minutes, I'd hit the microphone, the top of the microphone, which turns it off because I got a fancy new sexy microphone. It's a new microphone I've had for like 3 months now. It's not that new. And now I'm pissed off and everything, and now I gotta reiterate my whole intro as just getting into the movie. So let's speed run this shit for a better overall product, perhaps. Today we're doing Hiroshima Mon Amour. Which is the story, and I just read the letterbox thingy, but I'm not going to do that again. It's basically a French actress meets a Japanese man in Hiroshima. She's filming a movie in Hiroshima about peace, vaguely. We don't get too much insight into what the movie's actually about. They have a little affair here. They're actually both married, which isn't in the letterbox little synopsis here. And then they decide to kind of be lovers and stuff, and they recount their past, and it's all thematically entwined with Hiroshima and trauma and forgetting and etc. etc. So, love movie. It is another 4-star movie that I've given it, and I just went on a big diatribe about how in the previous movie nights we've given basically everything 4 stars very recently, and we haven't found a movie that cracks through and gets to the 5-star rating and emotionally resonates with me on all the big levels, rather. And I had a big thing about that. I was going back through the previous movie nights, talking about the ratings we had, etc., etc. Also, we're not going to jump right into the film because now I've got to do all the house cleaning shit again. We're 12 days past the last movie night, so I congratulated myself for being relatively quick in the newest one. I pointed out that either the next one will be something solo or it will be Battle Royale, the Japanese movie, that Hunger Games ripoff, with Mr. R. Or it might be something else because I might do one in between. I'm supposed to record with Mr. R in about a week and a day. So we'll see how that plays out. Is that the housekeeping? I don't know what it is. It might be Battle Royale. We did this one quickly. What the movie is slightly about, recapping, etc., making sure recording, making sure microphone on. I feel like we are missing something in translation here. Follow the letterbox. I haven't even added it to my Twitter thread yet. You probably saw that before you watched this video, and now it's weird because it's the other way around and I haven't yet done it yet. So now you're hearing this in some weird time distortion and you're trying to figure out the logic of it all. Isn't time a funny thing? That's kind of what the movie is about a little bit. I have some notes for this time's movie night, this episode's movie night. The first one is about the 5-star thing. Oh yeah, how I was made aware of this movie, which I did just say in my cut intro, and I might have said at the end of the last movie night. I'm pretty sure I did. There was a Twitter thread about the best sex scenes in movies. It was like one of those, I'm sick of people shit-talking sex scenes in movies because that's been a big dialogue thing now because you're all hack, fraud, idiot, moron, fucking idiots. And you just say stupid shit on Twitter and you all agree with it and nod along like big fucking morons about how sex scenes are bad, etc. There's that Little Joel video I haven't seen about the Oppenheimer one. I'm sure I'll watch that video and be greatly annoyed. But anywho. Oh yeah, that's how I found it. There's a thread about that, and that was cool. And I was like, it was one of the first ones, and it was in black and white, and it looked cool. And so, I was like, I'll add it to the letterbox watch list. And then I read the synopsis and thought it was vaguely interesting. And that's how we're here today. Movie's only 90 minutes also, which was cool, and probably another factor in me watching it so quickly after finding out about it. Movie is French, if you're unaware. The Japanese fella in it speaks French throughout. There are slight bits of Japanese, but that's never translated. I did have to torrent this movie because I couldn't find... Whenever you have a foreign film, especially when it's old and it's probably not a very popular one, like I'm sure if you put in Parasite or some shit, every streaming website will come with a fucking... with subtitles ready to go because people would complain otherwise. But with these small movies that nobody's really watching... The picture quality will be pretty good on some streaming sites, but there will be no subtitles. And I've tried downloading subtitles and putting them into the player before, but it never lines up and it's the wrong version. But all of the versions I found for this movie didn't even have the option to put custom subtitles. Did I say thumbnails? Subtitles into the thing, so that was all fucked up. I had to torrent it, etc., whatever, it's fine. It's also in black and white, so, it's 1959 out here. the people will hate that. When did we just stop doing black and white movies? That would be an interesting thing, because Casablanca is 42, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably black and white. But by, like, 1960, we're definitely all in color. Isn't Psycho in black and white, though, and doesn't that come out in 1960? Most of the movies Don Draper sees in the theaters in Mad Men are in color, I think. But anywho, I'm sure there's an answer to that more informed people than me know about. Anyway, this movie is one of the first vanguard productions of the French New Wave, the, whatever that means. I feel like I watched not a letterbox video, a Nerdwriter video about a movie about a girl who has cancer or something, and she's very vain about her looks or something. I feel like that video came out like the last 2 years. I think he said that was from the French New Wave. That was also in black and white, and I think from around the same time period as this. So I have some context for whatever that means. The French started making good films in the 60s or something, probably about emotions and stuff. And this was one of the first ones. The director of this movie is Alain Resnassis. God, I'm French. But that fella, he makes some other movies. I think this is his most popular one, but he has like a Auschwitz documentary film or something. And apparently this movie started as a documentary film, but then morphed into a fictional piece. Because he was just getting hired to do all the big disaster World War II follow-up movies. It's always interesting when you're watching, especially because this movie is about Hiroshima. I was like, oh, is it like set? Like whenever you watch an old movie, I almost just expect it to be set like 10 years before it came out. Like The Godfather is like that. That's set in like the 40s or whatever. But it actually came out in 1972, and to me, a boy born in 2001, I can't tell visually the difference immediately between these two things. But no, this movie takes place in 1959. It's just kind of a weird thing. Like, if I see a movie nowadays, and it's just the time period isn't specified, you can just be like, oh, it's set in modern times. But when you're watching an older movie, you sort of got to play detective here. Is this as old as the date of the movie? Is this contemporarily dated? Or is this a period piece in a different time period? Ain't that crazy? But sometimes you gotta be sharp with those things. It'll fly over your head. Like, I don't think the first time I watched The Godfather, I was really thinking about that too much. Obviously, Michael is fucking in his World War II uniform, and they're talking about World War II, etc. But I was like, 70s, World War II, pretty close, right? Nuh-uh. That's like 30 years difference, chat. Catch on. Anywho, Hiroshima is being rebuilt in the movie a little bit. You know, it's kind of getting there. And so it does take place in 59, which is about 15 years after the fact. Crazy. Oh, what a yawn. Sometimes you just got to power through a yawn, you know? Where do we go from here? I guess we go back into my notes, huh? I already said I gave it 4 stars. I already said we don't know anything. We're past the house cleaning shit. We're talking about funny things. Did I say this already? Or in the previous one? This movie continues to show that French is the best language for half of the sentence, and then continues on to be the worst language for the second half of the sentence. You're always listening to French people speaking, you're like, oh my god, it's French. It sounds it sounds awful. But it sounds perfect, then it sounds awful. There's always like a weird sound in the middle that's just like, why are you fucking up your own language? So that continues to be the case. We've seen Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I think this is my second ever French film. Run Lola Run is German. So I'm trying to think of all the other European movies I've seen. And I think that's it. I think this is my second French film after Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So incredible stuff. They must all be about love or whatever. We love love. But I wasn't exactly... I was sold on it because of its sex scenes. The sex scenes in the movie suck. They're not even cool. They're not even good. They're not even explicit. We don't actually look for explicitness in sex scenes. That was a joke. But then I looked away and paused and started and kind of ruined the flow of that. Anyhow, the even the love story in this movie isn't like too engaging. I don't know, these old movies, do they really get you in the feels? I guess that Casablanca did, didn't it? Oh, so good. Yeah. They even did the weird Casablanca kissing thing, which I guess might just be how old people kiss and old people in movies kiss, where they just keep their mouth still and on each other for too long. I think they're tonguing each other. I think that's what's being implied here. But in modern movies, you're always moving the mouth, right? When you're kissing, one side this way, then you switch and your noses like go across like that. You know what I'm talking about here. Which it does seem awkward and weird to me. It's just not how kisses are done. There's got to be more movement in them, I guess, in contemporaneous pieces. So that was interesting. But there's more Casablanca-related things. Obviously, Hiroshima and Amour, we said last time, connected to Oppenheimer, obviously, both World War II movies, both about the bomb very directly. We've done Japan's Longest Day in the annals of movie night, which is about the Japanese surrender at the end of World War II. Lots of World War II movies. Apparently, it's a big thing. Who knew? So yeah, various things are connected here. There's a big Casablanca reference at the end of the movie, which I think is like thematically the whole point, which is very interesting. I don't know if I anticipated an old movie doing such a reference to something else and reiterating almost its themes. It feels like a very modern contemporary thing to do, which is interesting. But maybe this French New Wave of cinema stuff has major reverberational influences on sort of the more meta type stuff that at least I'm obsessed with contemporaneously. But yes, interesting little connections here and there. We'll talk about the Casablanca connections much more as we get to the end and discussing the ending, etc. Where do we go from here? I'll never see a 5-star movie again. How I was made aware of the film. We've covered these 2 notes. Fantastic. We're getting somewhere with this fucking movie night. Then I've sort of got a few scenes picked out. I will say that probably is the biggest drawback of the movie, is that I'm not too invested in the romance. Kind of, though. You kind of are. Like, every time they basically end a scene with them not committing to staying with each other, you are, like, bummed out and rooting for it. So I guess in that way you're invested. It's just not a... You know when you watch a romance movie that you really like, you get the little butterflies in, and you're like, oh my goodness, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how you would explain that. I first got that feeling, chat, when I was watching Videl and Gohan in Dragon Ball Z, and I was just like, man, these two better kiss. That would be the greatest emotional release of my lifetime if I saw it happen. And they don't actually kiss, and it kind of happens with them, and then they end up together. So it was all the build up to that. All those high school episodes were the greatest thing of all time. You get that in some anime shit. Steins Gate has a good love story in that regard. Guts and Casca, etc., etc. You like that stuff. None of these are like that. So were all my examples just now anime? Is that how I interpret romance? Portrait of a Lady on Fire is like this too, obviously. That's not anime. Just French anime. The Casablanca is weird because it's not really like that. A lot of the investment in the romance comes with the build-up of them seeing each other and the payoff of them seeing each other. I'm telling you, the first 50 minutes of Casablanca is the greatest film of all time. The rest of it is like a 4.5-star movie. After that, their relationship is a little okay, a little sappy, a little et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure there's other fucking love shit in movies. In the Mood for Love isn't really like that either. But anyway, you don't get that I want them to kiss feeling. They're already kissing when we meet them and hugging and stuff. Naked and stuff. Can you believe that? But you still do root for the longevity here, even if I'm not swept up in it. Where do we go from here? I guess we can do chronological stuff, kind of. Or like my first thing here is about the theme. Forgetting like madness, it's hard to hold a grudge is my note here. The movie... Okay, I guess we should explain the movie. I guess we will start with the opening monologue. There's an opening monologue to this movie that's like a 7-minute sequence of sort of footage of the destruction of Hiroshima and what Hiroshima is today, and a man and a woman monologue. Now, the two main characters, a Japanese man, French woman who are fallen in love, etc., never given names until the end of the film, where the man says that his name is Hiroshima, and the woman says that her name is Nevers of France. I don't know how you actually say Nevers, which is the place she's originally from in France. It's spelt Nevers. So it's literally Nevers, Lamau. But it's probably Neves or something is how you say it. And you imagine I'm French and a girl saying it, and that's how it's said. So they kind of thematically take the names of the places they are from and the traumas that represent those places, etc., etc. It's a big thematic thing at the end of the movie. But throughout, they don't have names, which is As I hover over the letterbox things, they do have names. Ellie or Elle and Louis, which is lame. I don't like those names at all. They have no names. That's a fuck up on Letterboxd's part. And so, yeah, they're doing this monologue over the destruction and stuff. It's very good. It's like a very loving monologue. It goes back and forth. I saw everything in Hiroshima. You saw nothing in Hiroshima, the man says back. And then the woman has a lot of monologues about how, I have one of the lines written down, it's pretty cool. You're destroying me, you're good for me. There's sort of a juxtaposition and a wish-washiness in like her talking about how who knew this city was built for love or whatever, and then like the city is built for like death or whatever. It's going back and forth and saying this for 7 minutes. It's a very neat little engaging introduction. I said little to like as in I was demeaning it, but I just said it accidentally, all right? It's hard to... I don't know if I have this movie figured out all the way. Because that introduction, I don't really know how that fits into the movie, besides, I guess I do, but the character monologues being representative of the eventual characters, I guess I don't entirely understand that. Like her saying, I understand everything in Hiroshima kind of thematically makes sense, I guess, because she has a traumatic backstory about the place she's from, and he's from Hiroshima, where his traumatic backstory comes from. His family was in Hiroshima, and assumingly they all died in the bombing while he was away at the war. But his stance that she doesn't actually understand it seems off for his character. It's interesting, and maybe if I thought about it more, there probably is a better explanation for an interpretation you're supposed to have there. But anyway, we do get shots of them like mid-coitus throughout this little destruction intro monologue montage thing that's going on that goes on for about 7 minutes. So the first scene of them is like the next morning after they've hooked up. So it's not really a will they, won't they. Well, it kind of is, but it's a will they, won't they stay together, or is this just going to be a fling, etc. And so we slowly basically learn about these characters. Though you don't really learn that much about the guy. The movie is very much about the girl, though the guy is the protagonist sort of learning these things. And he's sort of like, she says, no, we can't see each other. I'm flying out tomorrow, Lamau, and then she goes to set and he follows her there and he's following her all over and trying to get to know her more, and they sleep together a few more times, and then they have ethical quandaries about whether or not they should be doing this. They're both married, etc., etc. This is all going to end terribly. This is only a short-term thing, but they're falling in love, etc., etc. And then eventually they sort of are drinking, and she goes into her backstory about how she was in love with a German soldier while Germany was occupying the place she's from, Nevers or whatever. The Germans occupied France in World War II, chat. You know this. Come on. And she was in love with a German soldier. And then after they're liberated, she is like tortured, kind of, but mostly by her parents, seemingly. For being a collaborator with the German army or whatever. So they like shave her head and shove her in a cellar or something. She's basically in prison or captured, and she's like destroying her fingernails, groping like the walls to try and escape, and she's crying and she's like licking the stone. She's going crazy basically. As she's kept, and I think it is for like 2 years. And like sometimes they'll let her out and thinking she's done all right, and she'll just start screaming for her German boyfriend that they killed when the fucking town was liberated. So everybody, this makes the family look bad, and makes her look like she's still a Nazi sympathizer or whatever. So they throw her back in the dungeon, or what do they call it? I already said the word. Cellar? Is that what they call it? She's sort of left to watch the world outside. There's a little window, and she's seeing people in the town square and doing things, and she's inside, and she's just depressed for like 2 years, and then eventually the parents get her out and say, you gotta go to France, and she bikes off, and she goes to France, becomes an actress, and now she's doing a Hiroshima piece later. Now, obviously, again, this movie is set in 1959, so all this happens, assumingly she's let out towards 1945 or 1946. When is France liberated World War II? It's in 44, right? Yeah, June of 44. So 2 years after that, it seems like she's left out. So only a year after. Though maybe that's just when the liberation started, because we got the liberation of France over here, the 6th of June 1944 to the 8th of May 1945. But she also somehow hears the news when Hiroshima is bombed, because she has a line about that earlier where she's like, oh, when I heard about Hiroshima, it just meant the end of the war, and it was like a happy day in France. And obviously it wasn't a happy day in Hiroshima to our main lead here, and there's some conflict there in their dialogue. So I think maybe I made up that it was 2 years or something. She's in there for a long time. Then she gets out, she goes to France, and now obviously this is 14 years later, I think she says. So maybe I did the math. I don't know. This is all 14 years after the fact, and she's basically still kind of haunted by her past, kind of. The movie thematically is about forgetting, and I think there's only 6 Letterboxd reviews. But one of the top ones is, a horror movie in which the memory is the killer and humanity is the victim. That wasn't exactly the one I was looking for. It wasn't that deep, chat. Basically, the movie, as summarized by a Letterboxd comment I swear I saw one time, was that the movie is about the horror of forgetting or whatever. Because throughout the movie she's screaming, even later she's I'm already forgetting you, as in the dude she's here with, and how she's forgetting sort of the hatred she had for her family and everybody else after her lover died and they treated her so horribly, etc., and that she's forgetting him, and how she shouldn't forget him because she loves him, etc., etc. So the movie is basically about forgetting things and being terrified of forgetting things, and then blending memories sort of with new scenarios, whereas it's obvious that the Japanese dude here, who is an ex-war veteran, etc., etc., they also fought on the same side as the Nazis, etc., it's clear he's a stand-in for her ex-German lover. In a way, her husband, who is, they mention at one point that they're married, and then I want to kill things, chat. Not only did our first fucking thing stop recording because I stopped recording audio because I tapped the top of the fucking microphone and didn't realize I was muted for 4 minutes, so I restarted. And now, I don't know how long, I feel for 20 extra minutes I was monologuing about all the best stuff in this movie, and the fucking space ran out on my computer, and the fucking recording stopped, and it didn't tell me. And now fucking 20 minutes of discussion, a lost of time. I don't know exactly. Well, I actually did just re-listen to where I was up to. I was explaining that they were both married and how that's not really brought up in the movie. But that was 20 minutes ago. And now I don't want to reiterate all this fucking bullshit. I'm hopping mad right now. I'm hopping mad. Where the fuck are we up to? We were talking about the themes and forgetting and how poignant that was and how nice it was and how that makes sense in a romantic sense. And I was talking about the mad double entendre. I was talking about the scene where she talks to herself in the mirror and how good a piece of acting that is. And I talked about problematic courting practices in the movie and how there was fucking... I can't believe... Why? What did I do to deserve this today? What a fucking bunch of annoying bullshit. Despair. Did you get any of my Berserk parallels and shit? I brought up Mad Men. We were doing so good. We were tying things in thematically. We were talking about how it's the movie's interesting stance on trauma and how you kind of take trauma with yourself, because at the end of the movie they both take on the names of the places in which their trauma originated, in Nevers or whatever, and in Hiroshima. That's the name, obviously, respectively, they take on. Which seemingly would be keeping their trauma with them and not forgetting it and moving forward, like something in Berserk. But but sort of holding on to it in a way. And then I was relating that to romance stuff, where in romance you like to do things like that, where you'll remember sort of a spurned lover or a relationship that went bad, and you'll remember sort of the good parts of it and how that's fun to sort of recall, but you also, as you further and further get away from it, you're scared of forgetting, and you do increasingly forget the particulars and how it actually was, and only have this sort of bastardized remembrance of it, and how that affects everything moving forward and how you carry that with you, etc., etc. I said so many interesting things and great things, and now I'm fucking gone. I was at the end. I don't want to reiterate all this fucking stupid shit. Oh, I hate living, chat. The theme of this movie is to kill yourself, and I'm going to do it if I ever fucking fuck up a recording again. Anyway, I guess I'll just continue where I was, as in the part you didn't hear, and then I'll try to reiterate things going backwards, but I'm down to like my last 2 notes. I already kind of talked about this, and I don't remember if you've heard it. So if you have, fuck you, fast forward or something. If you haven't, this will be the greatest thing you've ever heard. I just have the quote here that he will grab me by the shoulders and everything will be all right. That line as she's walking away from him, sort of the final time, as she then like wanders throughout the city at the end. And obviously this is her like wanting him to take action and sort of take the lead. But also her sort of a toxic female trope almost of saying no repeatedly to entice the dude to prove that he likes her more by sort of this pursuit culture or this toxic pursuit thing that it's very problematic. But there was also like a deep, profound thing to this line that I've completely forgot because I'm angry and I can't think right now. I was not mad at this scene, which it would seem to indicate from what I just said because I brought up the problematic aspects of it. It was almost a plea. It was almost her finally breaking through and admitting that she does want to stay, but she still wants him to do it. You can never just ask for things, chat, you know? It's weird to do that. You've got to sort of try to coax the other person into doing it. And when you're a man in a situation, it's just never going to happen. So you do have to end up actually just directly asking for it and feeling like a loser and feeling gross and feeling too direct and feeling bad for the other person to have posed them such a serious and direct question. These girls, they get away from it. When they get away with it. Again, that wasn't the point I wanted to bring up with this. I guess let's talk about the ending then. So they go through this thing. She gives him the traumatic backstory. He still wants to see her more. But she sort of gets away from it. Then she goes back to her hotel room. She has the scene where she has a talk with her old madness. It's so good. I just did a whole fucking 15-minute monologue on the scene. I'm mad that that's gone. Anyway, and then she wanders the city, and then I don't know how they both remember. Oh, then they go to the airport. That was a great scene. And there's like an old lady sitting between them. And I think this is one of the times where we actually get Japanese with the subtitles, and it is subtitled for the audience to fully understand, is when she sort of, she looks at the French woman and she looks at the Japanese dude. And clearly it's like time is between them. And it's like, because she's an old lady and she sort of represents time, which was a clever little visual. And also there is, I don't know if it was going for this, but there is always if you're in the need to have like a very important relationship or just interpersonal conversation with somebody, and sort of you follow somebody to have that conversation, and then you get there and there's kind of just somebody's like in the area too, and it's like, well, now we can't really have this deep interpersonal conversation when this other person is in the middle, and it's just sort of awkward, and you sort of, but you've already walked to the location, so you can't just jet out and leave, so you sort of have to sit there awkwardly. I was in a very similar situation to that very recently. So I don't know if it was going for that, but I was nodding along like, oh, that is how things happen sometimes. Very, very descriptive of the movie. But yeah, then the monologue, then I always say monologue. The conversation that the old lady then has with the Japanese dude is very interesting when she's like, who is she? And he like kind of explains the situation in like 2 sentences, and I can't remember what she says or if she has a word of wisdom, but then you just look back over because the shot was originally a wide shot showing all 3 of them, but now it's just showing the 2 of them, and then we cut back to the left or the ride, or whichever side the girl was on, and she's already gone. And it's like, oh no, you should get on the plane, but no, you can tell that she's ran and gotten a taxi, and then the Japanese dude gets like the next taxi, and they both end up at the Casablanca bar. And everything is like a Casablanca reference from here on out. And then you realize it kind of has been the whole time. Casablanca, set in French Morocco. It's not a French film, but obviously it has some touchstone significance. And also, it's a World War II movie, etc. And it leads to like America getting into the war, which kind of leads to Hiroshima getting bombed, etc., etc. But obviously, Casablanca is actually about a love story, right? And this is sort of another impossible love story caught in a weird area where somebody has to get on a plane or not get on a plane to see if they're going to stick around, etc. So it's like, oh, this movie is kind of Casablanca now that we're at the end and we're thinking about it. And that is a very good scene, especially in atmosphere where like it's kind of empty and there's like a group of younger people and there's like these three girls with this one like dude with very high cheekbones. What a gorgeous young man. And he actually tries to speak English to her, the only English in the movie, which is funny because she's white. He assumes she's English, but she doesn't really understand him, though she does nod at something he says, so maybe she kind of understands English a tiny bit or something. But she's just like not saying anything to him as he's like clearly trying to like kind of chat her up, but he's not being overtly bad. And our lead man comes in and sits at a table sort of opposite to them as they stare at each other. And then we sort of cut to them back in her hotel room, and that's when we get the ending about how the ending is kind of open-ended, but it seems like they're going to stay together as they name each other after their respective traumas. And I think they hug at the end, right? You know what also sucked is that this movie didn't have credits, so again, for the second movie night in a row, I didn't get my deep contemplative credits thought sequence, where I just listen to the credits go for 5 minutes and listen to the music and think about the movie. Instead, it just ended. Just like with Casablanca, how I had to walk out very quickly after the movie ended and didn't get to watch the credits. These old movies have very limited credits, and then they just fucking... And they put, like, the credits at the beginning. Can you believe that? Casablanca did that too. I'm pretty sure Gaslight did that too. Yeah, that was another little thing. But the Casablanca tie-in was very cute at the end. I think on the Wikipedia page it had a write-up from a review of the time that was very clever. I wish I could write this good. If I just search for Hiroshima Mon Amour, the first thing that comes up is the Wikipedia thing. And if we scroll down to the bottom, it'll have like reception, right? Where's the thingy? Oh, here, film references. In his book on the director, James Monaco ends his chapter on Hiroshima Mon Amour by claiming that the film contains a reference to the classic 1942 film Casablanca. Here is an impossible love story between two people struggling with the imagery of a distant war. At the end of this romantic, poignant movie about leave takings and responsibility, the two fateful lovers meet in a cafe. The director's name gives us a rare establishing shot of the location. He is going to meet she for the last time at a bar called the Casablanca, right here in the middle of Hiroshima! ! It's still the same old story of Five Love and Glory, a case of do or die. The world will always welcome lovers as time goes by. Isn't that a cute little write-up? And it's like, oh, the point of the movie and lovers and stuff. And remember the song that everybody loves from Casablanca? It was good. That was a neat little write-up. Probably says what I've been trying to say better than I said it, because it's like poignant and scripted and stuff. I can script things, you know. How do you click on references on Wikipedia? Do I click on the name? No, that's just going to take me to the fucking thingy something here. I don't know, a bunch of bullshit. Oh, actually, it does have the book on archive.com or whatever the fuck this website is with everything on it. I think it even had the movie on it. Or maybe it just has a few pages. Doesn't matter, I'm clicking on things that you can't see, chat. Fuck you. Remember the 20 minutes that got cut that I couldn't keep in? I think now we're at a total of like 30 minutes for this movie night. But I had so much more to say, I said so much more, and it's gone forever. I can't fucking believe it. I'm hoppin' mad. Is there anything else to say or something to reiterate on? Oh, all the theme talk was like the meat of the whole review, and it's gone, and I don't know how to reiterate it properly, and I don't really want to. Oh, chat. What an interesting movie. Only 90 minutes, chat. You could watch it so easily, and then come back with all your thoughts. I didn't recognize immediately that she was in love with the German soldier. I kind of figured it out when the tone of the scene and like, oh, this wasn't supposed to be happening. So that was interesting. I was like, he kind of looks like the dudes from Inglourious Bastards when they're in their uniforms like that, and I kind of recognized it from the hat. And then yeah, obviously they say it very explicitly later, but I'd figured it out long before then. Themes and stuff. What did we say about forgetting? Forgetting feels good, so you kind of like to do it, but it's kind of self-destructive, but you can kind of not stop yourself from doing it, but then you actually forget the actual acts of what's going on, and they blend together with other memories, and memory is bad, and feelings are bad, and that's the point of the movie that we're going through. There are multiple shots of going through like the city that are very cool and very well shot, etc., etc., especially her wandering the city at the end, but even earlier on, that are very cool. Good movie, I think is what I'm trying to say here. I can't believe we're ending it. I feel so unsatisfied. I feel so frustrated. I wonder if you feel the same. I feel like it actually was a good like 20 minutes. And not as in like a good as in a sizable 20 minutes, but as in a quality 20 minutes that are lost now. I'm sure you're sick of me complaining about it. So, next movie night could be a singular movie about something else, or it could be a duo discussion about Battle Royale, which I have never seen. Which Mr. R is apparently one of his favorite movies, and he wanted to do a movie night about it. So that's what we're going to do. Those will probably be the last two movie nights for the foreseeable future before I understand what my future video schedule is going to be like after I move. So, look forward or don't look forward to that, or start fearing that now. Anyway, movie night will continue on. This is the second time we've had a fuck up. This one wasn't as big of a fuck up as the Lighthouse one. But anyway, let's hope it never ever happens again. I think this is where we do the outro. Support links in the description below. Thanks.